Thank you for checking out Museum Ship Mafia. Let's see. It is, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Welcome to Museum Ship Mafia, where we take you behind the scenes of the museum ships across the country and around the world. My name is Ken Stana with the YouTube channel History X. Happy to have you with us. It's another live crossover broadcast tonight. I've got 3 YouTube channels for you. It's the USS Slater out of Albany, New York. We're supposed to have the Buffalo Naval Park out of Buffalo, New York. I don't know where those guys are yet, but they'll probably be tuning in soon. And of course, my channel, History X, out of Minneapolis. Happy to have you with us. So tonight, I am going to get these guys logged on. Going to start off with John Epp. You all connected, John?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good to have you there. And let's see. Let me get this out of here. All right. So John Epp is the curator from the USS Slater destroyer escort in Albany, New York. And bring that up. All right. So that's the Slater right there. The YouTube channel, if you want to check out the Slater's videos, you can check out or search for USS Slater. Their YouTube channel just exceeded 2,000 subscribers. What was that, this week?
A week or two ago, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. We are hitting a little stale right now, though. We haven't moved.
Well, that happens. Welcome to YouTube. Yeah, but you guys had a fantastic video that just exploded. You guys are now over 2,000 subscribers, so I think that's fantastic. In order to find the USS Slater, you can check out their website, ussslater.org, or like I said a few moments ago, check out the YouTube channel, search for USS Slater. And in addition to John, let's see, we had this guy on back in August. And if you don't recall, he is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, gave us over 20 years as a naval officer. He is a deep ocean explorer that has been down to the Titanic, and he was part of the expedition that discovered not only the USS Johnston in 2021, but also the Samuel B. Roberts made the announcement this past summer. He is now, since we had him on in August, he has now become the executive director of the USS Kidd Veterans Museum. So I'm going to bring him on right now. This is Parks Stephenson. Thanks for joining us, Parks.
Yes, hello there. Glad to be here.
And in order to learn more about the USS Kidd, you can find their YouTube channel. Do a search for USS Kidd Veterans Museum, or you can check out the website, usskidd.com. The thing that I've been focusing on, their YouTube channel, not quite at 1,000 subscribers. I think they just passed 800. So like I always say, one of the most effective ways to throw your support behind these museum ships is to simply check out their YouTube channel and click subscribe. If you click subscribe, it adds to their subscriber base, and then it will ultimately add to their potential to get advertising dollars from YouTube. And it looks like we finally have Shane and Steven on with us. How you doing, guys?
Fine. I don't know. We're having some delay issues here on our end, so I don't know if it will match up, and I hope you guys can still hear us.
Oh, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. And that goes for the viewers. Let us know in the comments how we sound. Make sure that you guys can all hear us. Definitely appreciate any kind of feedback you can give us to let us know how the broadcast is going, how things are sounding. That would be fantastic. Okay. So, like I said a few months ago, we've got Shane Stephenson, who is the curator at the Buffalo Naval Park, the director of collections. We also have Stephen Tedesco, the educational director at the Buffalo and Erie County Naval Military Park in Buffalo, New York. In order to find their YouTube channel, just simply do a search for Buffalo Naval Park, or you can check out their website, buffalonavalpark.org. introduce Parks. We've got John on. There's Shane and Steven off in the distance at the Buffalo Naval Park. And one thing I wanted to mention is that we also have Ed Webster monitoring the comments for us behind the scenes. Ed Webster is actually, I think, my 5th or 6th favorite subscriber. I'm not exactly sure which, but we've got him helping out behind the scenes. Look, I don't exactly know where Ed lives or what he does, but he's watching. So keep that in mind when you guys are putting your comments in. And Ed, we definitely have you, happy to have you helping us out tonight. I have no idea what Steven's doing right now.
People do things and it messes up with me, and
guys, we're just always it's always something here, guys.
We don't mess up on the end at the end anymore. We got to mess up at the beginning now.
And you guys are both college graduates, right?
Yes, we both have.
Okay, good to know.
Believe it or not.
All right. While they're getting the technical difficulties figured out, I also want to say thanks thanks to the viewers and subscribers. We can't do this without the people that are tuning in, that are subscribing, that are watching our videos, watching our content. Right now, it looks like there's about 16 of you, which is pretty cool. And so throw in some comments. Where are you from? Where are you watching us from? More importantly, or more interestingly, which channel are you watching us on? Are you watching us on the Buffalo Naval Park? Are you watching us on the USS Slater or my channel, History X? Throw that in the comments. We definitely appreciate it. So going back to John real quick. So you guys just crossed 2,000 subscribers. Are you also able to monetize your channel right now?
Yeah, we've made a little bit of money. So
okay.
That's
nice. And that's one of the most effective things that I think any kind of museumship can do right now is to enhance your social media presence, get the content online so that you guys can get additional revenue. Like I said a few moments ago, Parks Stephenson is now the executive director of the USS Kidd, and we want to do the same thing for him. If you have not checked out the YouTube channel for the USS Kidd Veterans Museum, please do so. And like I said a few moments ago, hit subscribe. If we can get over that 1,000 subscriber mark, they will be able to start earning advertised revenue from YouTube. So let's see. Let's start with John. John, what's the latest?
Needed repairs.
Say that again.
Which we need for much needed repairs.
Yeah, I wanna ask all of you guys about what's happening with your museums lately. Let's start with. You know what? I'm going to start with Shane and Steven since I don't know what they're doing, but let's put them on the spot. Guys, what's the latest with the Buffalo Naval Park?
We close in a week and a half.
Yeah, so we have contracted with a naval architect who will be coming probably late November, and he's going to spend 12 weeks here and surveying each of our vessels. And that's kind of the next step. We've actually been doing a lot of epoxy work on for the Sullivan specifically. Been doing a lot of epoxy work along the bimetallic welding from the deck to the superstructure and the deck houses. There was a lot of free association water that was going from the main deck just over the years. So we've epoxied it. We let it set. And now we're painting it. And so we're doing a lot of that work, especially in the 3-inch 50 gun tub and the Mark 56 gun director for the 3-inch, and also then the Mark 37 gun director platform as well. So we're trying to button her up from the 03 level down to the main deck, checking all of that bimetallic welding where the deck house meets the main deck and trying to seal all of those areas up. So that's what the crew is working on right now. And then we have our, Steven has his own thing. I have my own thing. But in terms of the, for the maintenance of the ship, the Sullivans, that's where we're at.
The Slater posted I think you posted that on Facebook either today or yesterday when you guys started talking about winterizing. Are you guys doing a winterizing process over at the Buffalo Naval Park right now?
Yeah, we will be. It's we have about what we're going to try to do is keep the temperature, above about 41 degrees, and so we have the heaters, we have blowers, we have dehumidifiers, and so those are getting ready to get laid out. And probably when we dewater the Little Rock, which will be in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that's when we're going to really begin working on the winter program as well. So
the reason we wait so long to do that is because we have encampments, the overnight encampments. So they need water and everything and heat, and yeah, they'd be mad.
So you guys still have that going on well into, it's already November. So when do those come to an end?
November 20th is the last day of encampments. It's also the last day of our season.
Yeah,
which it's been a season.
And then the last thing we do is I have a curator tour the day after Thanksgiving, and then all ship-related programming stops after that, unless there's something that in the wintertime that comes up, where someone wants to use the ship or something like that. So
now, am I still going to be able to come out there the first week of December?
Yeah,
of course.
There'll be no working water, but yeah,
that's all right. I don't need water. I just want to visit. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys then.
And we also have one of our loyal friends, a guy by the name of Scott, who wants to come up as well. And I said, well, Ken's going to be here. We're shooting for December 5th or 6th or 7th. And he says, oh, do you mind if I come and hang out with you and Ken and Steven? And so it might turn into a party that way, so we'll see.
I don't know if it'll be a party, but yeah, so that Tuesday, look forward to having
invited too. So
absolutely.
Yeah, Parks, John, if you want to drive up, come on up.
I think I'm busy that day.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cold.
That was a burn.
All right. Well, okay. Since you threw that out there, John, what's the latest with the Slater?
Let's see. Since our last live stream, we had our fundraiser at the end of October. Of course, Parks was one of our speakers, which was great. He lived aboard the ship for a few days. What else? Our season comes to an end on the 27th. Our last overnight is actually this weekend.
Oh.
After that, we will be dewatering the ship. That means there is no toilets on the ship, which is not fun.
That's true.
So,
and your office is on the ship, right? It's in the aft of the ship.
Yeah, my office is aft. Tim's office is in the pilot house, in the superstructure. And then we have a shoreside facility with 2 offices.
So, without any water, does that mean you move offices?
You got to walk outside.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, same with us. I mean, we have to just use the heads that are in the office building, come when we dewater.
We have another wrinkle in that our shoreside facility is getting torn down probably in February or early March. So for a period there, we're only going to be having porta potties in the parking lot.
Oh boy.
Is that in preparation? I mean, are you going to have everything else completed for the HINSA conference in September, or are you just not going to have anything there at all?
The ship is leaving. Yeah, we're getting rid of everything.
Well, I'm not.
So
getting rid of it.
We received a grant. We got some money towards a new building. So the goal is new building sometime in March. New parking lot, new internet, in preparation for the Henson conference next September.
Hey, Chopper.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right. Well, that sounds like good news. All right, Parks, you're up. I don't even know where to begin. So how long have you been in the role as executive director for the Kidd?
Well, I started on the 10th of October. So I've been there for about, well, I guess it's close to a month now.
And
I've
how's
been
it been
drinking from
going?
a fire hose. Yeah, I have an interest in this ship, but I have no experience in running a museum, and I'm learning that quickly. It's good to have a passion for the ship, but you also have to know how to do the business side of it, the maintenance side of it, and one thing you learn is not everything you want to do can you do immediately, or even in the short term, or maybe not at all. I want to say right off, one of my previous jobs, I worked for Moog Aircraft. And even though I was based in California, our home office was back in Buffalo. And I never understood why our yearly get-togethers, where they called all the managers in to the home office, had to happen in the January timeframe when Buffalo was under 3-4 feet of snow at times.
Right.
I remember one year where we couldn't even leave our hotels to go to work because of the snow. And I was just saying, why don't you guys come out to California during the winter instead of bringing us all to Buffalo in the winter? And I would say the same thing to you guys. After you button up your ships for the winter, come down to balmy Louisiana and visit us at the Kidd, because we're open all the time. We will be closed Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, but other than that, we are open every single day, which is a blessing and a challenge at the same time. We have to keep operating, and we have to keep doing our maintenance while we operate. One of the things that I was involved in the last couple of days was getting a couple of spots on the main deck that had been previously worked on and primered, finally getting them painted, and doing that while guests are coming aboard and walking around can be a challenge, because as everybody probably knows, when you have guests, they sometimes take your cautions to avoid certain areas as a specific challenge to actually go to those areas.
Yeah.
And
okay, so that leads me to a question, because
Yeah.
I know John's tours at the USS Slater are guided. I know the tours at the Buffalo Naval Park are self-guided. So does that mean that the tours at the Kidd are also self-guided?
Well, we offer guided and self-guided tours. Guided tours are usually something that we charge for, and those are for special parties. But for most guests that come aboard, they are self-guided tours. We simply do not have the staff to provide guided tours every day, all day. And it is those self-guided tours that can be a challenge, because we don't have the staff to follow them around. Although that is something that I'm looking into for next year's budget. We're going into next year's budget negotiations right now. And one of my primary concerns is people. I mean, you can try to work out money in the budget for maintenance, for specific projects, things like that. But at the heart of these ships are the people who run these ships, who maintain these ships, and who guide our guests through the ships. If we cannot attract enough people to fill out our staff, then basically we have to let people roam the ship on their own. And without a certain amount of oversight, bad things can happen. We've had some vandalism this week. One of our specific challenges right now is that the Mississippi River, in which the Kidd normally floats, is down at one of its lowest levels. The news stations are reporting this as an apocalyptic event, forgetting that it happens just about every year. But the river is especially low right now. Kidd is entirely exposed. Her rudder and her propellers are accessible. The ground around it that used to be the riverbed is now completely exposed, and people are climbing down to take pictures of the rudders and the propellers and climb on them and take rocks and scratch their names into the bronze and maybe break off some pieces that look like they're corroded and whatnot. So we do have that challenge. but we can't control that. We don't own the land underneath us. When the river goes down, that land all of a sudden belongs to the Army Corps of Engineers. So it does not belong to us. We are a state asset. We are a state asset that is on city property, but when the river around the riverbank and when the river lowers, then that's Army Corps of Engineer. So trying to negotiate those agencies and their bureaucracies to try and protect the ship, it's a futile gesture. We police it as best we can, but I'm waiting for the river to rise again so that Kidd will float. Yeah, there she is, all high and dry, sitting on her blocks. Not an optimal situation for a steel ship. You know, they were their hull structures were designed to have their weight supported by their displacement in the water. To have her up on the blocks like this for a short period of time is not necessarily a problem, but we've been up in the air for quite a while now, and that kind of, you know, gravity starts to take its toll, and we're you know, we can't stay like this forever. We need the river to rise again and float us. We are scheduled for a dry dock period. We've begun negotiations with the state government to outlay some capital to finance a dry dock period. We are sitting in fresh water, which is our blessing. Ship in fresh water. Kidd has not had an overhaul period since she was brought to Baton Rouge back in 1982, 83. It's been 40 years.
Well, here, hold that thought for a second,
Yeah.
because I wanted to ask Shane and Stephen this question. You know, so you're talking about with the self-guided tours that you have, unfortunately, you know, vandalism. You can't keep an eye on everybody. I mean, do you guys have the same thing at the Buffalo Naval Park?
I mean, we have vandalism. We're never exposed like that, water-wise. But I mean, we have plenty of vandalism. I mean, the Mountain Dew thing got knocked over.
Oh, yes.
But,
So
I mean,
in general terms, in our park, you know, in the overall layout of our park, we have vandalism because we have a city park, as you can see,
Yeah,
all
so
those trees.
all that green in the trees, and even the promenade there is open 24 hours a day. And it's owned by it's a city park, like Shane said. So people can, I mean, we've had people hop the fence in years past.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have people on board probably during the summertime. We probably have people on board every weekend that just hop the fence. Thankfully, they're not bringing spray paint or ripping things off or bringing a crowbar or anything like that. This year was the first year in my 5 years here where someone actually did some vandalism in terms of graffiti that was pretty anti-Semitic.
Oh, that's right, in the brig.
In the brig, yeah, we had some anti-Semitic writing, swastika, and
That's another day Kanye was here.
oh, dude. Okay.
Well, okay, so hold on a second. So you guys have similar problems. The
But
kid,
that's only the
you know,
once in
has
the 5 years that, you know, there's actually been graffiti or, you know, something with a marker that someone tagged something. Usually it's outside of our ships on our grounds, as Stephen was mentioning.
yeah, but you're dealing with a multi-jurisdictional, if that's the right word, area around the ship. I mean, the museum owns the ship or operates the ship, but the land around it, or in the case of the Kidd, the riverbed under it being owned and operated by the Army Corps of Engineers. How do you guys manage getting everyone on the same page when it comes to protecting the ship?
It's difficult, and usually it's the river itself that provides us a protection. When the river's down like this, we are vulnerable, and in some cases we just have to accept the vandalism. We try to warn guests away from it, and most guests are good and respectful, Sometimes they'll climb onto the propeller shafts or the struts because they don't think there's any harm in it. And when we point it out to them, they quickly comply and with an apology. So not every guest is bent on vandalism. It's a few bad apples. One example was on a tour this last Sunday, a self-guided tour. Somebody left alone on the bridge decided to smash all the glass dials on our torpedo director. No reason for that. They just did it. We haven't had graffiti, which I'm thankful for. We do have cameras set up, but again, without staff and without law enforcement really having any clear jurisdictional boundaries, we just have to manage the best we can.
So when you discover that someone breaks the glass on these dials or instruments, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about equipment, obviously dating back to World War II. That stuff's irreplaceable, correct?
It is, yes. It's a real shame. I don't know why people can't respect it, but some people don't, and it's just the cost. I hate to say it, but it is the cost of making these historic ships available to a public. A good portion, the majority of the public, appreciates it, and it's a wonderful visit for them. There's a small element that does not appreciate it, and for whatever reason decide to take their anger or their pranks or whatever out against it, and it's the cost of being a public attraction for visitors. You cannot police it too stringently, and we just have to if we catch them, of course we kick them off the ship. We don't have the ability to arrest them, although we can call the local law enforcement that we have a good relationship with and call them over. But a lot of these acts of vandalism is we find after the fact, and the cameras don't catch everything. They catch some things, but not everything. And it's our cost of doing business. And that's when our restoration crew starts to discuss how we're going to restore a very rare item like a torpedo director, which parts are not readily available. But
Michael Phillips brings up this
restoration experts who have ways of working around that, and we've already got a plan for restoring this director.
Well, and Michael brings up this question here about, he mentions that the Alabama blocks off certain areas with plexiglass, and the Buffalo Naval Park has, at least I think on the Sullivan, certain areas of the ship that are blocked off by plexiglass, but unfortunately you can't block off everything. Shane, Stephen, I'm assuming that's the case. You'd love to block off the whole ship, I'm assuming.
To tell you the truth, I would love access to all of the spaces in my ideal world. That's not going to happen. But I think every space on board has value and has a story attached to it. But, we just can't do that, right? Like we just can't have every space open just for safety purposes. Something's not preserved. There's certainly scores of spaces that have not been touched in 45 years, and we just shut the door or the hatch and just left it. And but to me, it's always more access is better in any museum, library, things like that. Having better access, having more access is the policy that I would love to default to, but that's just not possible really. So were we in the conference? Jeez, I'm sorry, everybody. I think we were at the conference and someone said, I have in my notes somewhere that like they just allow anyone to touch anything. Does that ring a bell? Like we were talking about, having things blocked off or plexiglassed, and someone was saying, we don't care if people touch things. I don't know. I have my notes here, but I don't know if I can find that real quick, but I don't remember what organization that was, but maybe was it Ryan or maybe it was the curator from the
It's
New Jersey.
at
Well,
the New
yeah.
Jersey.
So
That,
Ryan's the curator, but they also have a curator who is actually doing the curatorial work. And I think maybe during her presentation, I'm sorry, even her name slips me now, but it was, she says, we just let people go in, mess up a bed. If we have a bed made, we just let people get on the bed and just lie there in sick bay and stuff like that. So, because then they'll just go through and fix it, right? So I think that was, it's coming back to me, but I could double check as we continue talking. But
Well,
John,
again,
do you have
I
these
think-
kind of issues at the Slater?
In terms of vandalism, in my time, no. That I could think of when the Slater first came to Albany. So we're looking at 25 years ago, late 90s, early 2000s. Someone did break in and steal our magnetic compass, I believe it was, out of the pilot house, as well as either a Greek sailor's hat or a U.S. Navy. And we since then we haven't had anything like that. We have an alarm. You step on board the ship after we close, the alarm is going off, and you can hear it for miles. It automatically goes to our phones. We have cameras, so we've been fortunate. But we're also, like you said earlier, 100% guided tours.
Yeah.
You do not get to go on the ship unless you are with a tour guide.
Mhm.
So people generally aren't going to do anything if there's a tour guide with you, which is good. But we have the volunteers and college interns that make it so that we can do 100% guided tours.
See, when I come to Slater, I got my eyes open. And one of the things I learned on this last visit was the value of the guided tours and it's staff. It's having the appropriate numbers in your staff that allows the guided tours to happen. That's where Slater is very, very fortunate. They've got the staff to give these guided tours. We don't, which is why I am putting extra effort right now into our budget process to get more money to hire more staff. Because again, at the heart of these ships are the people that are in charge of these ships. And the more people you have, the better control you can have over the ship.
yeah, this is kind of what makes us envious of you guys having one ship, is that for someone to walk around all three of our ships on a guided tour, that could be 2 hours, 2.5 hours for a guided tour, because each of our three ships are different, very disparate sizes, as you can see, different stories, the number of spaces that are open. So what we have worked with the docents, now we do have a very strong group of docents, about 30 docents or so. We're working with them now to station them strategically throughout the ship. So when someone comes on board, it's a self-guided, but then there's stations where docents will be to say, hey, do you have a question? Did you see something back there that you want to talk about? Or this is the way forward. So that's kind of really, we're pushing for that for this coming year, to have maybe 8 or 9 stations of docents that someone won't feel alone. Every single person on board our Little Rock gets lost. Every single person. And we need to try to solve that.
Right. Going aboard Midway in San Diego, they also have a very strong and numerous docent program that do exactly what you say. They aren't guided tours aboard Midway. They're self-guided, but there is a docent at key points throughout the entire tour route just to be there as a presence. Of course, to answer questions, give helpful advice, but they're primarily there to be a presence. So again, it goes down to the people, and that's our biggest failing in Louisiana right now, is we don't have that number of volunteers. We don't have a strong enough veteran community to draw docents from, things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the struggle that I remember. You know what? It might have been Shane and Steven. It might have been when I was meeting up with you guys in Chicago. So I think one of you guys mentioned how you'd like to have a stronger volunteer force, maybe something along the lines of what the Slater has going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's we've had a couple staff people go there and spend a couple of nights, work with the volunteers. Of course, we've said it before, Barry and Gary and them coming to Buffalo, and so yeah, we are astronomically getting our volunteer program into place. I mean, as soon as you scratch that surface and a little light comes through, boom, then you've got the full sun coming through, because people have been itching, and we're finally hearing them and saying, yeah, let's establish a real good volunteer program. I do just real quickly. I just want to digress. I did find those notes from the presentation, making your museum relevant and accessible. And my notes, verbatim: Battleship New Jersey allows people to climb in various areas, and they don't mind if people go under ropes, lines, and chains. That was
Except when you read the comment here from Chopper 73, who said at the Battleship New Jersey they had a small flooding incident in their dental room.
Oh, geez.
I I don't know what to say. Yeah, and it goes on. A visitor supposedly got around plexiglass, turned on a tap, and the sink drain pipe was missing, so the water went everywhere. And you can only imagine. And we're going to get to the main focus of what this live broadcast is to be about, which is about artifacts. But when you talk about a damage like this, where water goes everywhere because somebody either crossed a line, or in this particular case, got around the plexiglass, turned the water on, left it running. Now all of a sudden you're talking about damage, not only to the ship, which that's unfortunate in and of itself, but the artifacts that you guys have on board. And I know John said at the Slater, a lot of those things are stored on the ship. I'm rambling now. But the damage that can occur is astronomical.
Yeah, we could talk about damage, the astronomicity of damage with water incursion. We're intimately familiar with that now. But
yeah, you guys are definitely familiar with that.
Yeah.
Well, here, on that happy note, let's move on to what the subject of tonight's broadcast is, which is, and I should preface this by saying, okay, so John Epp has a lot of good ideas about what we should be talking about, future subjects for Museum Ship Mafia. By the way, if you enjoy this video podcast, Museum Ship Mafia, you can also catch the audio versions of the podcast wherever you choose to download podcasts, your favorite podcast platform. So check those out. But when John mentioned this particular subject, which he actually said, artifacts, how do you preserve them? How do you present them? I thought, well, maybe that could be an interesting subject. But then I decided to give these guys a homework assignment, which is, okay, when it comes to artifacts, I want you guys to pick out your favorites. I also asked these guys to pick out a mystery artifact, which is an artifact that either they don't know what the hell it is, or they don't know how it came to be in their possession. And then the third assignment, which was pick an artifact that really doesn't belong at your museum. And this particular one could ruffle some feathers. But I want to start with John at the Slater. John, what do you have for us artifact-wise? What's your favorite?
Okay, so I'm going to have to set the scene here. So bear with me. We're gonna go on a little tour.
So, you got a presentation for us?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this is how we're set up. So we're on the first platform here. So we have all of our uniforms just on display. I was honestly surprised how many people really just like looking at our uniforms. It's amazing. This is our aftmost cruise quarters. And this is our collection space, our museum space. So we just have things on display. This is a tour option for people. And you can see one of the concerns here is a lot of things are just sitting on the racks. Thankfully, we have not had anyone run off with anything. There are cameras in this space. But again, to be in here, you have to be with a tour guide. It is not temperature or humidity controlled, which is a bummer, but that would cost a lot of money. So this is just a small fraction of what we have on display. So this is like Slater and Ito's stuff. So when Slater was in the Greek Navy for 40 years, we got. Okay. So this is actually on my list of one of the favorite things.
Go ahead.
You'll get I'll show you a photo in just a second. So that is the life raft from U-853, the last U-boat sunk in American waters. Bless you. It was sunk by a DE, the Atherton, literally hours before Germany surrendered. It is 6 miles off Long Island in 100 feet of water, give or take. Right when Germany is surrendering, and we have their life raft. You can't see it; it's in the corner, but we also have the captain's hats from the U-boat, as well as some wood fragments. But it was hard for me to figure out what was a favorite. We got kamikaze fragments that crash into DEs or shot down by DEs.
Those were kamikaze fragments? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this isn't a display we did. This is the Stafford. This was donated to us last November. That's the guy's son put that together. But we have kamikaze fragments. In just a second, I'm going to zoom in. You tell me what it says. So it's a 1.1 inch shell. Can you read what that says?
Does that say Colonel Tibbets?
Paul Tibbets. You know
What
who
does
that
it
is.
say? I can't read it.
Okay.
It says Paul Tibbets. I know exactly who that is.
So that's the pilot of the Enola Gay. So this
Yeah,
1.1 inch.
The atomic bomb.
Yeah. So this shell casing came from a DE, the Damon Cummings. At Okinawa, they shot down what would have been a kamikaze crashing into their ship. A lieutenant on board pocketed it for, memento. And at some point, he met up with the pilot of the Enola Gay, and he had it signed. So that is
Wow.
tied for one of my favorites. So yeah, May 28th, 45. That's all
right.
kamikaze stuff. And then you asked, this place is a mess.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
John, sorry. What was that right above that actually looks like a kerchief or a good luck flag that's been burned right above the Tibbets casing?
Yeah. Yep.
That right? Yeah. What? We have a good luck flag in our collection. Oh, the blood soaked grenade. Oh, that was a kamikaze.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's blood soaked.
Jeez.
That is in remarkably good condition for being a kamikaze hit.
Yeah. So all these footlockers are secured. You can see they're screwed in. But then you asked, this goes into our those are damage control books from DEs, laundry room. But then you asked, what is something we don't know what to do with? Was that the question?
Well, that's the third question, yeah, which is give me an artifact or tell me about an artifact that either does not belong figuratively, it just doesn't fit, or doesn't fit the focus of the museum, and it's got to go. The second was, I also want to hear about an artifact that you guys plain old just either don't know what the hell it is or don't know where it came from.
Okay. We have a lot of those. So this was the former depth charge storage. It is now the storage for our collection, and it is a mess. It is my goal to clean this all out. So in the back here, those are paintings and photographs, oversized. We do not have anywhere on the ship or in our shoreside facility to show these off. So that is stuff that we actually do not accept anymore. If you make a beautiful painting of a destroyer escort, or you have an oversized photo of it that's framed, we just can't accept it anymore. We have dozens upon dozens of this stuff. It's all tucked inside these corners. We just don't have the room, unfortunately. Uniforms are taking up a lot of space, as you saw earlier. So that is going to become something that we do have a uniform policy. You know, we restrict how many uniforms a single donor can give to us at one time. But last but not least, probably the favor of everybody on the at the Slater, and especially Tim, our director. You still seeing this window?
No, it's going now.
No, you got a black screen right now.
Okay, let me change. Stop. I'm an old man. I don't know how to do this technology stuff.
Don't worry about it. I mean, yeah. Well, okay. So you gave us
There we
2
go.
out of the 3. Oh, okay.
So that's last but not least. So Parks knows what that is.
Oh yes, the famous keys. Tim's car
keys. Tim's car keys. Yes, these are the keys to the carpenter shop on the Samuel B. Roberts. They were clipped to the guy's belt when he went into the when the ship sank and he went to the water. So that is the most prized possession of the museum. You know, they're on display in our collections area.
Wait. Bring that back up. What? I don't. Explain what those were one more time.
Sure.
Getting spam now.
So those are keys to the carpenter shop on the Samuel B. Roberts. That morning when they went to battle, they were just clipped to the guy's belts. The ship sank. He went in the water. He survived. And that's probably the only thing from the Samuel B. Roberts in the entire world. I would not be surprised. You know, all their uniforms they're getting rid of. So.
Wow.
Okay, and I lied. This
Okay.
is the last but not least. So my favorite thing to do is read tech logs and war diaries. That doesn't really count for this. Sailor art. So this is some sailor art that somebody made on a destroyer escort, arguing that they deserve sea pay, flight pay, and sub pay.
Sub pay. All right, that's pretty good.
All right. Sorry about that.
All
Took
right.
a lot of time.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Buffalo Naval Park. I see you guys have the glove. I see you guys have the gloves
Ooh,
on.
I do.
Yeah, a little bit. So this is something I get really wonky about. So sorry, everybody. Going to school for archiving. This really is it. You have questions up here. You know, artifacts, 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional. Get to. Does this address memory, or does it address if we don't accept this, will someone forget about it? You know, so when we're choosing artifacts to bring on board or donations, what is the attachment to today? Does it have a story for today? There are multiple pasts, and how well a collection answers all of those multiple pasts. All right, like we have a good luck flag, right? So that's someone's past from the Japanese Empire, right? So that is addressing not an American past, but a Japanese past. So things that, since I came on board, again, we didn't have a curator for 21 years. So, we accepted a lot of stuff that just didn't have any relevance to our park or Western New York. And so creating a new collections policy of, honing it down. Certainly, there's many things that I do not accept during the year, and I have no problem. It's a very legitimate thing to say, sorry, we're not accepting it. It's not part of our policy. Keep it as a family heirloom, whatever you want to do. So again, things that I've highlighted are interesting. I brought some things, and what we'll do is I'll try to show them here. You won't be able to see them, but oh, okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, you won't be able to read it, but these are letters from a gentleman who was a POW in a German camp from Belgium. All right, he's American, but he was captured during the Battle of the Bulge, and these are his sanitized letters home. Now, I think what really kind of the thing with writing a letter from a German POW camp is very sanitized, and they said everything's fine. Thank you very much. Love to everybody, and these kind of reflect that. So that's something that's in the collection right now. And when I open up the research library, there we go. Okay, Yeah, there's one poignant that I think is right there. If you guys can read that, that's really nicely done. He says he looks forward to going home and he could be made okay, which is so poignant and emotional. And then he says, I don't think I'll ever travel 40 miles from home again for the rest of his life. So we have things like that, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen. Thank you for doing that.
Is that something that you consider to be, is that like your favorite item?
No, and that's near impossible. I'm sorry, Ken. They are up there, all right, because you try to answer what does it mean to be favorite, right? Is it the wow factor? Yeah, we have a 6-foot Nazi banner. Is that my favorite because it's the wow factor? Stephen has a Nazi. We can't really figure it out, but I also have a collection of 80 letters from World War I that a guy who served from Buffalo was in France in World War I. There are a couple pictures attached, and at the end of the 80 letters, there is a lock of her hair, right? That he kept with a pink bow in it. That's a story that has relevance today because people apparently are in love today, just like they would have been 100 years ago. And so that's something really important that I have in the collections as well. Do you want to talk about the?
Yeah. So
if you can.
Wow.
yeah, absolutely. So Ken, you had mentioned something about we're not really sure what it is, right? So we have this, and it's on loan from. We did an exhibit. We have an exhibit up currently called Two Wars.
That you curated.
The Road to Integration, and we got some stuff from a woman. Her name is Indiana Hunt Martin. She was in the 6888. So if you don't know the story of the 6888, I'll put a link in so you guys can look at it. But so she's an African American woman. So the way that
it was a post office, right?
Yeah, it was a postal battalion. That's correct. Yeah. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
So basically, the German prisoner of wars would help out at this battalion, and then
so they would do work,
right? They would do work
mail and things.
Well, they would the prisoners of war would do more like along the lines of, from what I understand, is like the chores, so the women could. So like something that is I don't know if it's well known, but like the nurses, like black nurses, couldn't work on white soldiers, so they would actually give the black nurses to the prisoner of war camps, so they would work on German prisoners of war. But one of the women that was in the 6888, I don't know if it's a friendship or they just they were friendly with each other, but he gave her this, which was kind of like an act of like, thank you for treating me nicely, thank you for and we're told it's an armband.
Wow.
Not exactly.
But yeah, that's why we did pick this specifically, because we're not actually sure exactly what it is.
It is a patch that's worn on a sports shirt worn by a Nazi sports organization.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Huh.
Wait.
I'm a World War II reenactor, or used to be. So.
Is it?
So that is what?
Where would it go?
It's so as you're probably familiar, especially in the years before the war, the Nazis had a lot of organizations for youth, and that would include, and that's bevo weave there, and they had they just sports shirts. They could be tank tops. A lot of times, and that was sewn onto the front of a cotton sports shirt, and that's basically what it signifies. It's a civilian. I would say it's technically a civilian organization, but it's actually paramilitary.
Okay. So
Wow.
this was that makes it even more interesting, because this was in the artifacts that this woman had that she took home from France, which is where they were stationed. So This is that's really interesting.
So somebody cut it off a shirt because it had the Hoheitsadler on it, the German Reich Eagle.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a mystery. It's, Stephen really likes that, but
Yeah.
it was also a mystery until just now. So
Okay,
cool.
so wear it to the gym. That's where.
Oh boy. Oh
Pass
yeah.
on that one.
Well, okay. So what's behind you?
Yeah, this was a recent acquisition. All right, and we still have a lot of people on. When you talk to musicians, it's like, what's your favorite album? They'll be like, the most recent one we did is our favorite album, right? And so sometimes it's like that. Like the most favorite artifact is one you just recently got. Well, this is fabulous. This is we had a guy from Buffalo in one of the companies that went down during the Spanish-American War. And this was his great grandson's, who's now like 70 years old, but it's signed by the company. So it's a Cuban flag from 1898 or 1899.
Wow.
Signed by the company. All right. Now you won't be able to see that, but there's a pencil, and I'm just going to read a couple because this gets very, what's the word I used earlier? Visceral. Ready? Okay, so there's a quote here that says, "May 50 bullets answer for the life of every sailor on the Maine." Then underneath it, it says, "May each bullet answer for the life of 50 Spaniards." Over here, it has $1,000 reward for the scalp of, and then I had to look him up, but he has his own Wikipedia page, but it was the General Council of Cuba, so he was the Spanish ruling Cuba, and it says $1,000 for his scalp. So it says, remember the Maine, all of that stuff. So when you're talking about like, may every bullet kill as many Spaniards as possible, that's very visceral. It's very immediate, and it's very extant. It's happening at that moment. Those guys are writing it down, and that's how they feel. And that's the story that you could use with this flag is, we look at it from 122 years later, or whatever it would be, 124 years later. But that's them signing it with those feelings, maybe like how people felt after 9/11. And so that's a real important thing that we just recently got 2 weeks ago or something. But again, our collection policy is anything related to our 3 ships or Western New York. So this gentleman was from Buffalo and served in that company with the 74th Infantry out of one of the local armories. Oh, yeah. Okay. And
We have one more thing.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Shamrock flag from the Sullivans that flew during the Korean War, right? So they were in Korea for 4 months. We can lower it a little bit, or just so everyone can see the. Want to just do that? I don't know. Okay, so there she goes. There's some reflection. But so this was one of the Shamrock flags that they would have had aboard during her 4 months in Korea. She did a round the world cruise from late 51 through, I think, let me see if I'm getting that right. I'm trying to remember the dates. It was 217 days total, and 4 months of it were spent in Korea. And of course, they flew this from one of the yardarms during that time period. So this is something we had framed. It's under UV glass. All right. So it's kind of it's not in the sun, but it would be protected from the sun and natural light. And we had a professional who pinned it at the right areas to keep it secure and strong. So that's something we're very proud of as well. Thank you.
And that's, extremely cool because it definitely relates to the ship. Not only relates to the ship, it was actually on the ship during Korea. So that's a big deal. And I love that flag from, well, help me out here. So that's from like the turn of the century, the late 1800s, early 1900s.
The Spanish-American War was a pretty short war. But yeah, it was like 1898. I think it was only 4 months long or 5 months long or something like that. Sorry, everybody. So that was
and all of those comments or all of that writing on the flag. What was that? I mean, that wasn't written with a pen. They didn't even have pens probably available to them. Is that all pencil?
most of it's pencil, but in the star of the Cuban flag, you can tell there's it's ink. So they would have had an inkwell probably, and then but yeah, it's in. I mean, when you have pencil written on textile that's now 124 years old, this is crystal clear. I mean, it's astounding. So it has been, it doesn't even smell musty. You'd expect it if it was in a garage or an attic, that it would have a musty smell to it. This is in astoundingly amazing condition. It does not lead me to believe there's any hanky-panky going on, but to see something like this age, it doesn't even have a smell, a mustiness to it. The writing is crystal clear. It is astounding. And someone signed it, April 21st, 1898 right there, talking about scalping people and every bullet for 50 Spaniards. I mean, that's very visceral. So it's, I don't know what we'll do with it yet, but
with that in mind, I want to bring up this question because John, look, that's really amazing stuff. And he says here, history deserves to be remembered. Obviously, the corollary of the opposite is you can't collect everything. So when you talk about the Buffalo Naval Park, which has a World War II light cruiser, a Fletcher class destroyer, and a Gato class submarine on display, how do you reconcile? How do you see that flag, as cool as it is? How do you see it fitting into the focus or the mission of the Buffalo Naval Park?
Yeah, I mean, it's not related to our ships in any way. The only thing is that we would file it under our Western New York. It would come under our collection policy of honoring Western New York veterans. And so we do that. We have that. Now there's been some serious and difficult talks recently about what are we going to do moving forward? Are we going to continue to honor Western New York veterans? Should we start focusing on veterans who served aboard our ships? All right. When we went to other museum ships, they're not honoring the municipality and where they're at. Right. The USS Edson doesn't honor veterans from Bay City, Michigan. I mean, at least in terms of display, right? They honor the people that served aboard the ship. And so that kind of slapped me in the face a little bit to say, I don't know how it is at the Slater, but do you guys have veterans from Albany area or Baton Rouge that you guys accept things from or honor? I mean...
Well, we do. We're the USS Kidd Veterans Museum, and part of our charter when we were established by the state of Louisiana was to honor veterans from Louisiana of all services. So we do have the crests of all the services on our building, including Space Force now. And we have a Hall of Honor, which has rotating displays of Louisiana veterans on display in the museum. So in addition to the Kidd, we are honoring our veterans. We have a Louisiana Memorial Park outside of the building that has a wall with the names of Louisiana veterans who have participated in various wars. But this is because we have a building that is attached, that on the landward side, that's part of our museum, with the ship forming the other part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly what we do. And a lot of the Western New York stuff is up here in the museum building as opposed to on the ships.
Mm-hmm.
But we have thousands of items that are from Western New York veterans, not just their names or photographs, but we do a lot.
I just want to go back to that question real quick because, I mean, for any historian or curator or educator or what have you, like, you're going to get duplicates of things, and you're going to get things that don't necessarily tell the whole or aren't necessary to the story, but we have to make sure that we're telling the truth and It's the data and the artifacts that will fill those holes and those gaps. So it's not necessarily like you can't collect everything as it's like a bad thing. You can collect things that fill holes, but how many 48-star flags can you collect? How many Navy uniforms can you collect?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like not telling certain stories. It's just
and what you do is you decide that's absolutely, what Steven's saying, what we're all talking about is really great conversation, but it leads to being an active collector. All right. There's a lot of debate in academic circles of, are you going to be passive? Are you going to say, we will accept anything that comes to us? Or are you going to be active? Right. So if you're saying history deserves to be remembered, you're to say, well, what you are ultimately making that decision of what deserves to be remembered, but then you are actively seeking stuff out that will tell that story. So instead of it waiting to come to you, which it may never come, you are being an active archivist, active museum professional, education. You're saying, we are looking for this to fill in this story, right? And so I think you are, again, laser focusing in on what your collection policy. You can't collect everything, of course, right? And that might lead to what we're going to deaccession, or what, we have thoughts about deaccessioning things. But you can be active and say, we are seeking out these items to tell this story. And then that, again, keeps it, you're keeping history alive in some way based on what you want to see. Yeah, there's memory, there's forgetting, and that's why our sorts of the artifacts are so important, because, and then again, how we tell the story. So now I'm just babbling as well as Ken said earlier, but
well, that's all right. But is there anything in your collection that you guys feel or plan on eliminating or removing?
I mean, that's more you question.
Well, I think with the Sullivan sinking this year, and capsizing and having that event, I think it really we need to look at our yard. All right. We have a Huey helicopter. We've got a Bulldog tank. We've got an APC. We have a Voodoo. We have a Fury. Those are artifacts that are valuable and tell a story. But are we the right place now, given the circumstances, or should we focus on our vessels, including our PTF boat, which just had a 3-year restoration project? Looks great.
Yeah, but that's a really good point too. And just because we can't collect it doesn't mean somebody else can't collect it. We can certainly say, you know what, this isn't for us, but it should be for somebody. It should be told. It should go to the Smithsonian. It should go to the World War II Museum down by the Kidd. It should go wherever. It should, like, there are places for things, and it's not like we're just turning things down to turn them down, but there are other places that's not us, that where they belong.
Yeah. So I would actually recommend, and I will be putting that report together of recommending that we find other homes for our Voodoo and our Fury and our tank and APC, and because we just don't have. What do we need to care for? We need to care for our ships, right?
Yeah, you have limited resources. You have limited resources, not only in the form of dollars, but also in hands, available people that can care for these things. So you have to be, I would imagine, more so than any other time right now, you have to be hyper focused on where those resources go.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, I love the flag. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Although there was that good comment, maybe the Olympia would be a better place for her. That's something I would consider, but those are those theoretical, questions, not theoretical, but those are those questions that I have to, and we have to consider when we accept something like that. Now, I was shocked at that. That was pretty cool artifact, but it's for us to tell the story. And if we're telling the story right, that's what matters. So,
all right, Parks Stephenson for the USS Kidd. And before we get to Parks, I just want to remind everybody that if you have not had an opportunity, if you're new to Museum Ship Mafia and you have not had the opportunity to either check out the Buffalo Naval Parks YouTube channel or the USS Slater's YouTube channel, or we're going to get to parks in a little bit. The USS Kidd Veterans Museum YouTube channel. Definitely check out the stuff that they have posted there. And if you like it and you want to support these guys, one of the easiest but yet most effective ways to throw your support behind their efforts is to simply click subscribe. So if you're new to Museum Ship Mafia and you like what you're seeing tonight, please consider subscribing to these channels. With that being said, Parks, you're up. What do you got from the USS Kidd?
I'm going to take it in reverse order because I'm going to segue off of what Buffalo was saying there. Like I said, we're the USS Kidd Veterans Museum. We were started up to honor both Louisiana veterans and the USS Kidd, which in itself was meant to represent the wartime participation of Louisians or Louisiana. I don't know. I'm from, I'm new to the state. I don't know.
You're from California.
No, I lived in California. Doesn't mean I'm from California. But anyway, I come into the museum, and over the years, they've accepted so much stuff. Some of it was because of the dual nature of the museum, it was hard to turn down things. Other decisions were made because they felt this is something that would bring in ticket sales. And I come into a museum which has a World War II Fletcher-class destroyer, and I don't get a consistent message when I walk through the museum. Every morning, I walk through a World War I trench, which was put in to honor the centenary in 2018, and through the gun deck of the USS Constitution, a beautiful representation of a section of old Ironsides, a couple of cannon with proper tackle, and a lot of really nice artifacts on loan from the Constitution Museum. But I have to ask myself, like the guys at Buffalo were saying, is this the right place to tell this story? And what story am I not telling because I'm devoting footprint in the museum to this? And so I am very anxious to get rid of that gun deck of the Constitution. I'll say it right now. Anybody wants it can have it. It's a replica. The cannon are fiberglass. The walls are beautifully constructed in the original manner of the ship. But I want it gone, to be honest. I want that space to tell a destroyer story. I want to talk about the Battle off Samar. I want to talk about the Johnston, the Samuel B., the Hull, the Harriman. I want to talk about life aboard a destroyer. The World War I trench is covering an engineering model of a Fletcher-class destroyer given to us by the Navy. It's a cross-section of the engineering spaces of a Fletcher-class. And I want to use that as a centerpiece to tell the story, what it was like to live aboard a destroyer. What was it like for men who lived aboard a destroyer? So I go back into the archives, and again, I said I'm a World War I, World War II, Civil War reenactor, Mexican War reenactor over the years. I have an interest in all this stuff. I find a World War I helmet, an M16 helmet, with the body armor that the snipers would wear, sniper plate attached to the front of the helmet. And I love this, but what's it doing in a museum about destroyers? I found a beautiful model of Titanic about 3 or 4 feet long. And so I put that in my office because that's part of my history. And I've got a model of Kidd that's not accurate enough to put out on display, but it's good enough to put in my office. So I've got some nice office decoration now. But again, this is all footprint in the museum that's needed for the story that I believe that the museum needs to tell, and that is of the destroyers. Again, we have artifacts from these Louisiana veterans that we highlight. We have to store those too, and I understand that. But I believe in our museum specifically, one of my first jobs that I need to tackle is to define the message that our museum wants to put out, and then align our archives to that message. Now, I'm not going to throw stuff away. We're not going to throw stuff out on the trash heap, but I will be actively looking for people to take some of these exhibits, some of these artifacts that have nothing to do with life aboard a destroyer.
Mhm.
So that kind of answers your question about what would you like to get rid of. I haven't been through the archives enough to find something where I've said, what the heck is this? It's been more like, what the heck is this doing here? And I'll work on that question. But when we get down to my favorite artifacts, as I've been poking around, I've come across, some interesting things for me personally. Let's see if I can present these things. Slides. Oh, no, I'm not going to share screen. I have no slides.
Yeah, you
video file. Can I do a still picture as a video file? Let's try it here. Let's see.
Or you
Nah,
can,
won't
you
let
can
me do
share a
that.
screen.
Well, share screen, you're going to see a whole lot of other stuff. Let me see if I can share
Here, try
this.
If you click on present, do you see at the bottom where it says share screen?
Yeah, I see that. I've got picture up on one screen. I hope I don't share the wrong one. Let's see here. Let's see if that's screen one. Yes, it is. Okay.
If
I'm
it's
going to
your
go
cat,
ahead and
we don't care.
share this. I think.
Nice.
Do you see it?
Down in the bottom for us, I see it, but not on the main screen for everyone.
Oh, there it is.
Nice.
Okay. So this is
Whoa.
I don't have the shamrock flag that the Sullivans has, but we have an original picture, and this is not it. But recently, I found the original photo taken at the shipyard when the Kidd first flew the pirate flag. I don't know how many people know, but the USS Kidd was named after Rear Admiral Isaac C. Kidd, who was a battleship division commander aboard USS Arizona, died during the Pearl Harbor attack, and the ship was named after him. But the crew, probably influenced by what were then popular pirate movies in the early 40s, thought more of themselves along the line of Captain Kidd, and they got permission from the widow of Admiral Kidd to fly the flag from the Kidd, and she petitioned the Navy to make this official. So USS Kidd DD-661 was the only ship authorized by the Navy to fly the Jolly Roger. And that tradition has been handed down to her namesakes, DDG 993 and currently deployed DDG 100. So finding the original photo for this was something that I really enjoyed seeing. Another artifact that I found, which I thought was very humorous, and this is going to be interesting because this is going to be vertical. So let's see how this thing shares. Let me get rid of some of this other stuff I have up. Okay, well, I'm going to share the screen, but you just look at what's in the center of it. This is something that I found. It was as soon as it comes up, it's the USS Kidd action game. And I'll go ahead and enlarge it a bit here. But this was done on the occasion of Kidd being brought to Baton Rouge. Now, I'm looking at the monitor. It doesn't look like it's keeping up, but I'm zoomed in. It's like a Chutes and Ladders kind of game, but you start out in 1941 with the Pearl Harbor attack, and then you get the Kidd being launched, and then the events that she went through during World War II. About the middle of the way down, you'll have the Korean War, which Kidd also participated in, and then through the Cold War, when she's decommissioned in 1964, like here, USS Kidd taken out of service, lose a turn. Okay. Baton Rouge asks for USS Kidd. Plans to bring the Kidd to Baton Rouge approved, take another turn. These, and then the end game is home at Baton Rouge. And I just thought that was a fun little thing and a nice little artifact that I found amusing. But my most favorite artifact is not something I found in the museum. It's something that I'm going to bring to the museum. And that is this. Let me see if I can show it. This is your standard. Oh, let's see. Let's make sure it doesn't get lost in the green screen. This is the standard little light that was pinned, safety pinned. If you'll see here, I gotta keep it in front of me so that it.
Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go. The safety pin. You pin this to your life vest, and when you go in the water, you flip this switch. And just activates a little battery operated light. Very simple, very common item. Nothing really special about this whatsoever. But this holds personal meaning for me because a very good friend of mine, his grandfather, was aboard the USS Hull, a ship that was sunk, a destroyer that was sunk during Typhoon Cobra in 1944. And he went into the water. And this was a storm whipped sea, barely any chance of survival in that kind of situation. But a signalman on the Tabberer who was working to try and reestablish her antenna lead saw amongst the mountainous waves this lone light and directed crew aboard Tabberer to pick up this guy. It turned out to be my friend's grandfather. So this common little light saved his life. And for that reason, this particular artifact is personal to me. And I'm going to put it in the museum and tell that story along with other stories that we tell about what it was like to be aboard a destroyer during World War II.
Yeah, great.
Wow.
Now, would that have been you said the Typhoon in 1944, and I've heard other stories about a Typhoon. Matter of fact, I interviewed a yeoman on an LST, the 1063, and he talked about being in a Typhoon in 1944. Would there have only been one Typhoon, or so there were many of them?
There were several Typhoons, but Typhoon Cobra was one of the strongest, and it actually might have been avoided. It's one of the criticisms of Admiral Bull Halsey, who drove his task force into those areas when there appeared to be warnings that he should have heeded, and there actually was an inquiry on this Typhoon. Actually, Halsey drove his force into two Typhoons between 44 and 45, and there was a court of inquiry held afterward that was very critical of Halsey. But ultimately, Admiral Nimitz kind of stepped in and kept Halsey from having to pay any real penalty for what some have called his command decisions. And but suffice it to say that regardless of who was responsible for this, there have been times when our fleets have been caught by the forces of nature, by a Typhoon. I mean, the ships from Taffy 3 that were headed to the Battle off Samar encountered a Typhoon on their way to the Philippine Sea. They suffered no losses, but you read the accounts of the guys aboard the Johnston or the Sammy B. There were days when they couldn't eat because the ship was just being thrown about so much. They couldn't eat, and if they managed to get something in their stomachs, it usually came right back up. So this is another aspect of life aboard a destroyer, which you don't normally see on our museum ships. You go aboard them, they don't move. And that's one unfortunate thing that our guests don't get to experience about these destroyers is they hardly were still like you see today, moored alongside or sitting in the cradle in the Mississippi River, or tied up to the pier in Albany. They're missing a very important part of destroyer life, and I want to bring that out a bit. I want to make people aware of that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Shane. I don't go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if that's the December 44, I believe there may have been 3 destroyers lost.
Yes, Typhoon Cobra lost the Hull, the Monaghan, and the Fletcher-class destroyer Spence.
You got it. Yeah. I mean, just imagine the loss of life. There's 1,000 guys right there.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead. I kind of lost my train.
No, and actually, another interesting fact about the Hull is she was the inspiration for the Caine Mutiny. And in the Caine Mutiny, the ship survived, and the CO was put on trial. In real life, the Hull was lost, and the CO was not brought to trial like was shown in the movie. But that was Herman Wouk's inspiration for the Caine Mutiny.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and
which is a fantastic book, by the way. Fantastic book.
In the spirit of Ken and his interest in cross-pollinating and working with other museum ships, and do you guys even talk and all that stuff, which is something Ken always asks. The Kidd, Sullivans, and Casson Young are all 80 years old next year. So I've already worked with Tim Nesmith, and I'm working with Buzz at the Casson Young, and we want to do a joint.
Parks and I talked about this on Parks. Is this what you're talking about? We talked about.
Yeah, and don't forget the Velos over in Greece. We want to include her too.
Yes, absolutely. The Charette, also 80 years old. By the day she was commissioned December 31st, 1943. So she made that 80th anniversary on the last day of the year. But yeah, we'd like to do so. We have a Jolly Roger that I was planning on flying this year. I did a YouTube video about it saying that we're honoring you guys during your commissioning. So I'm going to be talking to everybody, and we're going to see what we can kind of come up with for the 80th anniversary for the 4 remaining Fletchers in the world. We
are looking for a shamrock flag, and I want to know what Casson Young's going to pick for her symbol.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been Buzz was saying that maybe we should have a Purple Heart flag because there's some Purple Heart story attached to the ship. And there are Purple Heart flags around. I also heard that they continue to fly a 48-star Jack on the bow for some reason. So I might try and do a little digging into that to see.
Well, what's the story behind the rooster?
I don't know if I know that.
Okay, I heard there was a story associated with Casson Young that involved a rooster, and I don't have the full gouge on that, but
they may have painted it on their funnel, right? Like that may have been a funnel, like ours with the Sullivans, and yours you have the Captain Kidd on the funnel itself. That may there's a resource that I might check for that because I think there was 5 Fletchers that were able to put an emblem on their funnel, and so I will double check, or I'll look into that, but that's interesting.
Nothing comes up on a quick Google search.
Oh, no?
That doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Well, we gotta work with them and see what kind of unique emblem they have. The Purple Heart flag is a good idea, but it's a little generic. I'd like to dig something out of Casson Young's history, and maybe that could be their symbol, their flag.
Nice. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm cool with that. That's great.
Well, for those of you that have been watching us, and we still have quite a few people checking this out, you may not be aware we've got Ed Webster behind the scenes, kind of wrangling questions and comments. Are there any questions that viewers have submitted that we haven't hit, or that should be brought up? Because right now, the way I look at it, after that incredible list of stuff that John, that Shane, that Steven, and now most recently Parks put in front of us, does anyone have any questions that need to be answered that we haven't tackled yet? Is it?
Let me
one.
Let me.
I wanted to bring this one up. Michael Phillips asked this. Do museum ships loan artifacts to other museum ships? And you guys can talk about. Yeah, we'd like to send this one to an appropriate place. But have you actually traded artifacts between or amongst other ships?
John, you posted something right earlier about that.
We don't give other museum ships loan our stuff, but if somebody comes in wanting to donate something and it doesn't fit a destroyer escort, I'll point them to other museum ships.
Okay, I'm going to call you out, John. You just took some breakers from our ship for yours, so
That's not a loan though. Actually, I found a uniform among all the uniforms that was donated to us. Who knows when? It's not accessioned, but it has the separation papers along with it. The guy didn't serve on a DE. He served on the Pensacola during World War II. So that might be something. No, we don't loan anything to other museums typically.
Yeah.
What about Buffalo Naval Park?
Yeah, for us, I believe there was in the late 70s when the ships came here. I think the policies were pretty loosey goosey back then. And I think our sub ships at the time were bartering with other ships to get some Bofors and an Oerlikon. I don't have the records on that though, and that's what it was. Actually, I was going to mention that as one of the mysteries is we've got these two twin Bofors, and we have no record of where they came from. They did not come here with the ship in '77, but there's Naval History and Heritage Command. There's a NAVC, right? So you can go to like legit organizations and get loans from them. But I think in the late 70s, early 80s, we were bartering with other museum ships. Certainly, our gun plot computer from Little Rock is now on the USS Wisconsin. That's a fabulous story, but one for another time. But yeah, to my knowledge and my historical research, we were, taking things from other museums and giving things. We'll give you, a quintuple torpedo, which we didn't have, but for twin Bofors or something like that. So
okay, let's go back to that because I need a set of quintuple torpedo tubes. I have a plan. I have a plan to take Kidd from her 45 configuration to her 44 configuration, and I need a set of quintuple tubes. I am willing to trade my quad 40s for a couple of twin 40s or some single 20s. I'm about to do some major modifications, hopefully. And I need to trade. I need.
Well, you're trading naval weapons.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's see how
can you trade high caliber weaponry? I don't even know if you could do that. How does that?
Unfortunately, I'm sorry to get your hopes up, Parks. We do not have our Mark 14 or Mark 15 quintuple. They were removed.
No, I know you don't. I've located a couple of candidates that I'm going to be looking around for. Oh, I see that. I see BB62 looking for quad 40s. So maybe I'll talk to them about that. But yeah. First of all, before I can start trading, I need to find those torpedo tubes, because if I can't find the torpedo tubes, I can't do the conversion that I want, and we'll be stuck in 45. But I'm really intent on taking her back to 44 because I want to be like Slater. I want dazzle camouflage as well, and I can't do that unless I can go back to 44.
Really?
So,
well, you've got that beautiful Measure 22 graded system down there.
Yeah. She's had it for 40 years. I need to increase attendance, so I need to freshen up the kit. I need her to look different, and besides, personally, the closer I can get her to look like Johnson, the happier I'll be, because Johnston's my baby, of course. So we'll see. If I can find a set of quintuples, then I'm pushing ahead to take her back to 44.
Good for you. I have a big push on to paint her in the overall sea blue scheme of their World War.
No, the disruptive pattern camouflage. What we short term we call dazzle. That's more of a World War I term than World War II.
Right.
But you see Slater. Slater's eye catching because she's in that disruptive pattern camouflage. And after 40 years in Baton Rouge, having this same 1945 scheme, we want to do something different. We want her to look different.
And is that a legitimate? Was she painted in that camo scheme?
Oh yes.
Oh, she was. Okay. So.
Oh yes, but it has to be. It has to be between June and December of 1944.
Very nice.
So we're only going to do it if we can do it authentically.
Right.
We have people who are not associated with ship, but who are associated with the commission that oversees the ship. They're really pressing for the dazzle camouflage because they see the marketing potential behind it, and they want us just to paint it that way now. No, we're gonna toe the historical line. If we want to paint her that way, we have to configure her for the proper time period. We can't just slap a 1944 camouflage scheme on a 1945 configured ship.
Michael Phillips just asked the question, if you're not able to find the tubes you're looking for, what about fabrication? Is that an option?
We will have to do, for the conversion to 45, we're going to have to do quite a bit of fabrication. That includes an extra 20 millimeter gun tub forward of the bridge. That means taking out the 40 millimeter gun tubs up forward and replacing them with 20 millimeter gun tubs. That means taking the midships 40 millimeters, the pedestal thereon, and constructing a new pedestal farther aft of midships that has both a 40 millimeter magazine and a radar control room. And that means getting rid of the current director pedestal that's between the two stacks and where the torpedo tubes would go. That's all fabrication that we're going to have to do. But for the actual torpedo tubes, we're going to need the actual tubes. That's not so easily fabricated.
Slater has a quintuple, right?
No, Slater's got a 3.
We're twins. We
Twins.
got twin 40s, yeah.
No,
We have
wait,
single
no,
mount
they're-
40s.
the quintuple
No, they're
torpedo tube.
torpedo tubes.
Oh, no.
No, they don't have
Yeah,
torpedo tubes.
They took them off in like August 44.
But the Slater didn't have 5 tubes; it had 3.
Three. Destroyer escorts had
okay.
3.
Yeah, you're okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm on the hunt for those right now. I've got a couple of leads. We'll see.
I'll see if I can find any here in Minneapolis.
Yeah. If anybody's got any in their backyard, let me know.
There was before I get to my little did you guys have anything else that you, because I was looking at the clock and of course, we're approaching 2 hours again, like we always do. But when it came to artifacts, was there anything else that you guys wanted to throw out there?
Of course, the most important artifacts in any of our collection are the ships themselves.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Actually, Shane, there was one. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Let me piggyback off that real quick because someone actually mentioned it in the comments when I was talking about the Atherton. So the Atherton has sunk. So there is now only 5 destroyer escorts left in the world.
Tell us about the Atherton. What is that?
The destroyer escort, we gave it to the Philippines. They were going to turn it into a museum. That is the Atherton.
What is it?
When did this happen?
So reports seem to differ. This came out like 2 weeks ago, but some reports are saying this is a few months old at this point. But that is the Atherton in the foreground, and then there's I think 2 patrol craft or minesweepers in the back. So
what happened?
Mostly, I assume they're going to raise it and probably scrap her.
What happened?
Well, I mean, a couple weeks ago they had a storm come through, but if the reports are saying she's actually been sunk for a couple months now, then I don't know.
Yeah.
So they were going to turn it into a museum, I guess, but I don't think that's going to happen now. So 5 destroyer escorts left in the world.
I've never heard that story or seen that story.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I saw that question pop up earlier. I didn't know what the Atherton was, and wow, thanks.
Well, it came up because the Atherton's the one, the U-853, the life raft and the hats. Atherton sunk that. And then after the war, we gave the Atherton to the Philippines.
Boy.
Got it.
That's sad.
There was actually one artifact I'm surprised that Shane did not bring up, either for his favorite or the mystery or the one that needs to go, which is his cell phone. Yeah, I mean, I understand it's your favorite, but it's also a mystery as to where in the hell that thing came from, and it really does need to
And
go.
you rock it.
Yeah.
You have rocked it tonight
Mhm.
very well. So
Yeah.
appreciative. Well, I was walking around some caves, and then there was like the cave paintings from about 18,000 years ago, and then the phone was just right there next to the cave paintings. In France. Yes.
So
very
you
good.
stole the artifact. Okay. Well, okay, guys, I definitely appreciate you pulling out the artifacts. I also definitely appreciate the discussion we had in the beginning, the unfortunate discussion about vandalism going on museum ships, which is definitely unfortunate, but unfortunately, I guess, is also a way of life. Did you guys? Well, actually, let's just cut to it. John Epp, because we'll close this out. John Epp at the USS Slater. What's going on, or is there anything going on at the end of the season, or should we just be looking at stuff coming up online, social media posts, videos of what you guys got going on?
Yeah, so we don't really have much going on. We'll have a Veterans Day ceremony on Friday. That's the last major thing. We'll close in a couple weeks at the end of November. After that, we don't open back up until the first week of April. So we're going to be doing our Winter Fund Drive, where Tim, our director, pleads with the public for money because the ship is cold. We spend a couple $1,000s every other week on fuel to heat the ship, and we only heat parts of the ship. My office is not one of those places. So if you feel like donating a few dollars to heat my office this winter,
wow,
that would be great.
We know how,
how
cold it can get.
Oh my gosh, it goes right through your shoes when you're on that deck. It's
good question. Yeah, totally.
I believe it. Hey, I wanted to bring this question up just because I saw it just a few moments ago. This was gentleman sent me, I think it was an email, and I totally forgot about it. So, Frederick, I apologize, but he was asking about the USS Luce, which as I understand it, went down. Are you guys familiar with this? I think it was a destroyer.
Certainly sounds like it. Yeah, that's someone's last name.
Sunk by kamikaze. Looks like.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, he had mentioned that it was sunk by a kamikaze. I can't find the comment right now, but I told the gentleman that I would bring it up, and then I totally forgot. So I'm so glad he brought it up. Are any of you familiar with this? And Parks, are you at all familiar with any kind of efforts going on right now to continue to find shipwrecks like this?
Well, my shipwreck exploration is on hiatus for at least the next year.
Well, you've got your hands full, that's for sure.
Well, I've got my hands full with my museum, but also my benefactor, Victor Vescovo, sold his submersible and its support ship to a scientific organization who will not use it for wreck exploration. And that's all of us here who maintain these ships know how costly it is to maintain a ship and a crew. And even someone like Victor, who is a man of means, he's not a man of infinite means. He could not, it was a financial burden for him. So he sold his system. He's going to take a year off to attend to his businesses and possibly build up his cash reserves again. And then we're going to start looking into ocean exploration again with a different vehicle and probably a different methodology. Maybe not manned dives, but with remote vehicles, like many other organizations are prone to do. So when that begins again, we will be looking for new targets. I personally, for reasons I stated earlier in this broadcast, would like to see if we can locate the ships from Typhoon Cobra. That's a very challenging search because we really don't know where they went down. Positional information reported at the time means nothing during the middle of a typhoon. So we'll see.
Good point.
We shall see.
Do you, in your position, if someone else was running around diving on a wreck or the suspected location of a shipwreck, Atlantic, Pacific, whatever, in the circle that you run around in, do you get wind of that, or is that information that everyone just kind of keeps secret, and if it was going on, you would never hear about it?
How do I answer that? It's yes. I mean, there in the community, and there is a community of underwater people. Everything from explorers to the guys who build the submersibles to the guys who fund these expeditions. You know, there is an environment there, and we will hear words about it, like when the Chinese found the Perth, the HMAS Perth, before she was officially discovered, and started to dismantle her, salvage her for their raw materials. We heard about that, reported it up certain channels. We kept it discreet because we were reporting it up official channels and leaving it to the government to deal with, since it was it had international geopolitical implications.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it came to light that the Chinese were engaged in this activity, and the international community reacted. I don't think they're going to stop the Chinese or others who do that kind of what I will flatly call abhorrent behavior toward war wrecks. But there are incidents like that do happen. There are opportunists that try and operate under the radar, and we get wind of it because these are all complex operations, and sooner or later someone who was involved in the operation will have ties to others, and the word will leak out. But how it's handled depends on the situation, and a lot of times whether it has geopolitical implications and something better for governments to handle rather than individuals.
I had mentioned that story to Shane and Stephen when we were in Chicago, and they hadn't heard of it. I had just heard about it briefly, but I'm actually going to be working on a video about about the raiding, about the stripping of these shipwrecks for the metal going on in the South. That's the Southwest Pacific. That's a terrible story, and that's going to be probably a discussion we need to have at another time.
Yeah, and it even happens to even a famous shipwreck like Titanic, which is protected by international treaty. There has been at least one pirate expedition down to the Titanic to try and grab significant artifacts off of her, and luckily they had technical issues that resulted in them not being able to. They were going to cut one of the anchors off, for instance. I don't know what you're going to do with it. I mean, if you all of a sudden appear with an anchor from Titanic, how do you explain that? But there's something like the telemotor up on her bridge. It's always been an iconic landmark on the wreck. They tried to pull that off, but were unsuccessful, but damaged the base. And so that artifact, that landmark of the wreck, may fail prematurely because of this unauthorized attempt to salvage it.
Wow.
Yeah, if I could piggyback off of that, so one of the things that's coming up in our wheelhouse is certainly we have a Veterans Day celebration and memorial on Friday. And then that's at 10 a.m. And then at noon, we have the Hispanic Veterans Association will be having their own specific Veterans Day memorial celebration. And then at 4 p.m., we're really happy to talk that we will have Blair Atchison from the Naval History and Heritage Command Underwater Archaeology Team. And she's going to be giving her presentation on the USS Juneau wreck. So we hope to put her on YouTube, kind of like what we did with the Johnston. We did a comparison video. And now wants to go to certain spots on board for her own sake of actually seeing being on a Fletcher class, and then using that with her own research with the Johnston and what they found with the wreck. But at 4 p.m. this Friday, we have Blair coming to give about
That was my foot.
That was you? Holy
Yeah.
moly, that scared me. Sorry. Giving a presentation. So if you're in the Western New York area, please feel free to come on in. And I want to give a shout out to Ed Webster. How you doing? Nice to see you. I didn't realize you'd be on today, but great to see you and great to meet you as well.
And if you're not in the area, we're hoping to live stream Blair's presentation on our YouTube site. So again, it'll be Friday at 4:00. I'll be hopefully getting that working. The Wi-Fi signal in the building that we're doing it in isn't the greatest, so that's the only issue. But hopefully, and if not, it'll be up right after. So
and with permission from Naval History and Heritage, right? They have to give permission for us to publish this and things like that. So we'll be working on all of that stuff tomorrow, and then she'll arrive tomorrow early afternoon. And
so real quick too, the Luce was named after Stephen Luce. He was an admiral in the Civil War, and he was born in Albany, New York.
I mean, come on, John, you should have known that.
Man, I don't know anything about American history prior to like 1942.
And I'm going to address a comment here too, saying that the Nimitz Museum in Fredericksburg, Texas, may have a quintuple torpedo tube. Yes, I know. I don't know if they're willing to part with it, but I am aware of it. And if I can't find another one, I may be knocking on their door and seeing what they might.
Did you ask Tim? I mean, Tim seems to always have something in his pocket, so he might have a torpedo tube.
Yeah, Tim has
everything.
Put me in touch with a couple of people, so we'll see.
Tim got patted down at the Midway about 20 years ago because he was
you guys don't ever pat me down when I leave your ship, so that's failing on your part.
That's true.
All right. Parks Stephenson at the USS Kidd. What do you have coming up? Since you're not going to be shutting down for the winter, anything coming up in the near future that you want us to be aware of?
Well, just the fact that we're unlike my esteemed northern colleagues here, we are not shutting down for the winter. We're open around every day except for Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. We will have certain events in March. We're going to have a 1940s theme dance hosted aboard the ship, which is usually a big seller for us. And I invite you guys, when you're shut down for the winter, come down to Kidd. If you come down soon, you can see what the underside of the dang ship looks like.
Yeah. We don't have our props on the Sullivans, so it would be nice to see. We have them, but we don't have. They're not on the ship right now.
Okay, good. So I don't have to worry about you walking off with them. So that's good.
Right, we have them though. Yeah, that's true. 12,000 pounds each, I think. No, I'd love to get down there. I'd love to, walk around that World War II configuration. Man, that's great.
Well, now we are approaching 2 hours. I definitely wanted to apologize to Ryan Szymanski. We definitely, unfortunately, did not have time to let him join tonight. We're going to have to reschedule that and see if we can't get him on another time. Ryan from the Battleship New Jersey. Sorry for bumping you. But with that being said, John Epp, curator, USS Slater, you can catch any of the content that the USS Slater posts on their YouTube channel. Just search for USS Slater and check them out at www.ussslater.org. If you haven't seen it, they've got an engine startup video that is about a month old. That's pretty amazing. Going viral that I think is just fascinating. So definitely check that out. Shane Stephenson, curator, Stephen Tedesco, educational director at the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park. Check out their content on their YouTube channel. Just simply search for Buffalo Naval Park and you'll find it. You can also check out their website, buffalonavalpark.org. And finally, of course, Parks Stephenson at the USS Kidd Veterans Museum. Their YouTube channel, like I said, right now they're under 1,000. Let's see what we can do to get them to 1,000 subscribers. Check out their YouTube channel and search for USS Kidd Veterans Museum, or check out their website, usskidd.com. How did I do, guys? Did I get everything?
Thank you. Appreciate the shout out.
Yeah. And now you got to give yourself the shout out.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, if you guys want to catch audio versions of the Museum Ship Mafia video podcast, check out the audio versions on your favorite podcast platform. I'll try and get this one up as soon as I can. And of course, check out my YouTube channel, History X. We definitely would love, if you haven't checked out History X, love to have new subscribers. Anything else you guys want to add?
Well, you might want to mention that we're not limiting this to just us. We're actively searching for other museum ships to join this group and bring their ships into the mix. I got to promise USS Midway that they're going to chime in every once in a while, and the more the merrier.
We'd love to have the Midway. I've been talking to the guys from the Battleship Texas. Shane got me in touch with them. And of course, Shane and Steven came across some other museum ships while they were at the HINSA conference in Hawaii. So yeah, we're definitely trying to get other museum ships involved. And with that being said, when it comes to the viewers, subscribers, if there's anything that you would like us to cover, like Frederick had a question about the USS Luce, let us know. Put it in the comments. We'll do our best to try and get to it. Any last comments that you guys have?
Thanks for being
here. All right.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everyone, thanks for watching, and I hope you
Chopper,
have
thanks for being here from down under.
What's that?
Got to give a shout out to Chopper 72 or 3. Yeah, there we go. From down under.
Oh, right. Yeah. So if it's going on 10 p.m. here, that means it's 10 a.m. where he is?
I guess, yeah, that seems right.
Well, Chopper 73, hope you have a good morning. All right. Well, everybody else, definitely appreciate you watching. We can't do this without the viewers and subscribers. So we appreciate the support. Check out the USS Slater, check out the Buffalo Naval Park, and check out the USS Kidd. My name is Ken Stano from the YouTube channel History X. Thank you for checking us out, and I hope everyone has a great evening.